Andrea Harrison, one of the most complex and interesting characters in The Walking Dead that caused quite a stir within the Walking Dead community. The controversy in question is the TV show Andrea, played by Laurie Holden in Frank Darabont's adaptation from Season 1 to Season 3. I personally am a huge fan of The Walking Dead, and I played the games, I watched the show, I read the comics. I'm a big, big fan. And when I was watching the TV show, I really found myself relating and liking the character Andrea. However, when I looked online, I saw there was quite a stir about her character. A lot of people saying that she was a bad character, saying they hated her character, and I was really confused because I felt quite differently when I finished season 3 and sadly saw her die. This led me on quite the rabbit hole and kind of explained why I got such a different interpretation from the character Andrea than a lot of other fans did. In this video, I'll discuss Frank Darabont's adaptation for Andrea Harrison in the Walking Dead TV show and how this made fans quite mad to see the changes that were made. It's quite the understatement to say that a lot of the actors playing the roles in season 1 of Rick, Laurie, Shane, Andrea, you name it, the first crew of The Walking Dead, it's an understatement to say that they were not passionate about this project. Frank Darabont handpicked these actors and asked them basically a favor due to the lack of budget they had to make the show, and it was all a big passion project, as said in interviews like this.
You know, when The Walking Dead started, there was no craft service. There was no it was like a bunch of us in the fucking woods. It was like Frank Darabont. He had done Shawshank Redemption. He had tried to get the show on HBO. They said no. AMC had like Mad Men and Breaking Bad. They're like, all right, we'll do your shitty little zombie show. We'll pick it up for 6 episodes, which basically means we don't really believe in this thing at all, you know? But he got these group of people together, and it was so humble.
Here's a guy who gets his cast and crew together and gives them to AMC, packages this whole show and gives them a show that is way cheaper than it would be to make anywhere else, because everyone is working well under their pay grade. Why? Because they want to and love working with Frank Darabont.
Laurie Holden was promised basically an 8-year deal with The Walking Dead show and was told that she was going to be one of the main characters in this lineup.
It's gonna kind of channel her anger into being sort of more of a badass in the group as far as like killing zombies and like getting aggression out.
That's inevitable.
Yeah.
If you read the graphic novel, Andrea is gonna become one of the biggest badasses female warriors of The Walking Dead. That is who she is eventually.
So I'm assuming that's what drew you to the role, knowing that that was gonna be your path.
Yeah.
There are other instances of her being very excited to play this role when she says,
He called me up and he said, you know, I really would love you to pick up the graphic novel and take a look at it. I think you're perfect for the role of Andrea. So I picked up Compendium 1 and I didn't know what to expect. I couldn't believe how dark it was and how character driven and how incredible the storytelling was, and I just fell in love with the world.
Eventually, though, tragedy struck at the season 3 finale premiere, where the day before they were supposed to film and get their lines for the final episode, she was told she was going to be killed off in that episode. She talks about this in a Comic-Con interview where she says,
when you did exit the show and you talk about that supportive atmosphere, what were your emotions going into that?
I was told the night before, and I had just bought a house. It was literally that the showrunner at the time was writing it, and nobody knew what the finale was going to be. It was not what I was told the ending was. I was told that I was going to end up on a horse and saving the town and go, you know, leave Woodbury. And it was my home and in my job and my role that I loved, and it just happened kind of out of nowhere, and so it was a lot to process.
This was definitely due to the change in showrunners when Frank Darabont, the original producer of the show, the showrunner, was fired.
I mean, we had so many changes that happened with showrunners coming and going, and so the show kept shifting. That was the plan, and then a new showrunner came over, and then I all of a sudden was with the governor, which was never supposed to happen. And it just all kind of found a new path with the new kind of, leader of the show.
This meant that a lot of the scripts written were obviously changed, and the castmates were no longer who were cast at the original season 1 were then like, oh wow, that's the person we were working on this project from day 1. He's just been fired. They were quite upset, especially characters who played Shane, Laurie, and Dale. The character who plays Dale, Jeffrey DeMond, actually ended up leaving the set and the showrunner at the time had to write him out unexpectedly because he was like, I'm leaving, I'm out. You just fired Frank Darabont, my best friend. He's out. So his ending was quite abrupt and not planned. Other actors like Laurie and Shane, Sarah Wayne Collin and John Bernthal, both also spoke about this in their podcast called Real Ones.
This dude saved my fucking life, and I'm getting married, and I'm about to have a kid. And wait, you firing this dude? But wait, he didn't do anything. But like now he's like, what?
I mean, the reasons that we were given were like, he's unexperienced as a showrunner and he's unprepared and he doesn't know what he's doing. And I remember being like, but this motherfucker, 1 month before we started shooting season 2, dropped 6 completed scripts in my lap and said, you can learn these lines, they're not going to change.
And they were wonderful.
They were wonderful. Yeah. And I remember walking up to Kirkman and saying to him, if you don't think we know the difference between a script written by Frank Darabont and anybody else, you're out of your mind. And I looked in his eyes and I thought, I'm going to get written off this show.
Eventually, though, a few years later, Frank ended up suing AMC and the Walking Dead franchise. He ended up winning the lawsuit and getting a $200 million lawsuit settlement, which is pretty telling to the showrunner at the time, and him being snubbed like that. It's pretty telling to who is in the right there when it's $200 million in a settlement to keep him quiet. All right. In Henry Jenkins' book, Textual Poachers, Television Fans and Participatory Culture, he states that fan is an abbreviated form of the word fanatic, which has its roots in the Latin word fanaticus. In the most literal sense, fanaticus simply means of or belonging to a temple servant, a devotee. The Walking Dead is especially known for its fans and the wide spread of people within it and the kind of lengths they go to unfortunately express their opinion. On season 3's premiere, there was definitely an online consensus that Andrea was making all the wrong decisions. She seemed quite stupid to fans, and by sleeping with the governor and doing all these things that fans are just like, what are you doing kind of vibe. And this was very obvious in the talk show she went on with Craig Ferguson, where she states,
you get a lot of that? You get a lot of attention?
I do. I mean, the fans are very passionate, and they don't really know the difference between the actors and the characters. So, like right now, a lot of people are upset with Andrea because she hooked up with the sociopathic villain of the piece. So if I go to Coffee Bean or the gas station or, Hugo's Tacos, people stop me and say, you need to get away from him. And it's like, okay, note to self.
It is quite obvious that Laurie Holden is very aware about the things saying about her character online, which is even more clear in a Comic-Con interview that broke my heart, where she's asked about what her character is going to do in season 3 and if she can be a leader of sorts, as shown in the show. This is Laurie Holden's answer.
Her mind is on mediation. She was a lawyer prior to the apocalypse. It's what she knows. And she sees 2 men, 2 leaders who are losing themselves and losing their humanity. I think that Dale was a huge influence on her and that incident with Randall, and I think he's the guardian angel on her shoulder.
Oh, I get a little teary.
Oh.
She's trying to keep him alive.
Yeah. We're very invested in our characters.
Yeah, she's trying to keep Dale alive by sleeping with the governor.
No, oh no! I'm sorry. You killed it!
To me, this part just breaks my heart because you can tell this is an actor who really loves her role and is passionate about it and is upset that it kind of feels like people are just not happy with her portrayal, and that's enough to make anyone to feel quite upset and alone. Going back to Henry Jenkins' book, he ends up quoting Christina Buss's view that groups of fans can become legit if and only if they follow certain ideas. Don't become too rebellious, too pornographic, don't read the text too much against the grain. This suggests that while opinions can be very valid, when those opinions spread everywhere, it's hard to find people who want to say otherwise because there's such a majority opinion already made about her. This is very evident when I was searching through Reddit blogs and TikTok comments about her when people said, I didn't find her that bad, I actually quite enjoyed her, then just paragraphs of these people just saying, this is what she did, this and that and that and this and that. And it just to me seems like there wasn't really a place for people who liked Andrea or wanted to say that what she did wasn't too bad because she was just being called a whore or being called this online by just the majority of people. Most likely the reason she was cut from the show was because there was so much hatred about her character. This is seen again in Jenkins' analysis where he states, especially as media industries have had to embrace more participatory strategies in order to court and maintain relations with their fans at a time when a logic of engagement shapes many of their policies and promotions. To me, this kind of perfectly explains how commercial the show came when it started killing off characters who they thought were annoying or hated by the fan base just so they can get more views. In Stephen Racin's book he wrote with Courtney Plant and Grace Packard called Psychology in Popular Media, they state, in an effort to improve representation in its content, the Star Wars franchise introduced new and more diverse cast of characters. While some enjoyed the new setting, others criticized it. This backlash was often rife with racist and sexist comments directed at the film's cast and production team. The results aid in explaining fan backlash to the inclusion of greater diversity in newer Star Wars films, and suggest a similar associations for the fan backlash in other fan media. While I was never passionate about Star Wars as I am The Walking Dead, it's very clear to see that it's a pattern within media. Additionally, to me, there was a lot of sexism within this hate and these comments. This is especially comparable when you see fan comments under Shane posts and a lot of Shane Reddit comments, and just the overall stigma around the character of Shane is a very loved kind of character. While I agree he was really well written and really well made, a lot of people stand by the things he said and say, oh, he was right, he did this, Shane was right all along, kind of thing, and blaming Laurie for his downfall. Lest we not forget, in the show, Shane raped Laurie, and it was brushed past a lot in these kind of fans' minds. And I can't help but think there is some kind of sexism going on here because the male characters are not getting this kind of hate, but the female ones are, and they're getting latched onto by crowds of fans. It can be seen in comments where they say Andrea chose a warm bed over a friend, or she just wanted a bed and she just wanted the dick and all that kind of stuff. To me, it's very obvious that the hate against these characters, while sometimes justified, is disproportionalized through sexist and misogynistic ideals. Andrea Harrison is a human rights lawyer. The difference between Andrea in the comics and Andrea in the TV show is there is almost a 10-year age gap. In the comics, Andrea is 20 years old, and the TV show, she is 36 to 37. She and her sister are 12 years apart in age, and they are polar opposites in their personalities. Amy is shy and introverted and quite, innocent and sweet, whereas Andrea's a bit more grown up. She's a bit more vocal about what she thinks is right, and what she thinks is best for the group. A turning point in season 1 is when Amy is unfortunately killed, and Andrea has to put her out of her misery. And it suggests this turning point in quite a strong, fierce character to someone who's just lost her sister, her one person she had left, and completely loses herself in grief. When season 2 comes around, she's a lot more willing to find her path and to make a difference. There's an excellent quote in the show where she says,
"Wanna live now?"
I don't know if I want to live, or if I have to, or if it's just a habit.
which is such a beautiful line about purpose and finding yourself, because it is, at the end of the day, survival of the fittest feels like it's just a habit. You don't know why you're trying to survive. And that's a very common talking point in the show, is finding that reason to keep your humanity. That is seen in characters like Dale as well, who she often is very close to. And when he ends up dying in the show, she kind of takes that part of Dale and tries to find that humanity within her group of survivors that she ends up coming across in season 3. By the end of season 2, she has become very powerful in her ability to shoot walkers, to protect the group, to provide, as a lot of the men are doing, because she is not letting all the men do all the work, because she knows she is just as capable. This is especially seen in a very iconic cat fight with Laurie and Andrea in the middle of season 2.
I contribute. I help keep this place safe.
The men can handle this on their own. They don't need your help. You don't care about anyone but yourself. You sit up on that RV working on your tan with a shotgun in your lap. You're insane.
No, you are. And you're the one that's self-centered. The way you take it all for granted.
My husband is out there for the 100th time. My son was shot. Don't you dare tell me that I take this for granted.
You don't get it, do you? Your husband came back from the dead. Your son, too. And now you got a baby on the way. The rest of us have piled up our losses. Me, Carol, Beth. But you just keep on keeping on. Playing house, acting like the queen bee, laying down rules for everybody but yourself. You know what? Go ahead. Go in there and tell that little girl that everything's gonna be okay, just like it is for you. She'll get a husband, a son, baby, boyfriend. She just has to look on the bright side.
Where Laurie is a more stay-at-home woman, trad housewife. And while that's okay, you're still doing your part, she ends up saying that Andrea should be doing it as well. And Andrea rebuttals, like rightly so, because there is no reason for her to be treated this way just because she is a woman, and she should be helping out the house chores because of her sex. At the beginning of season 3, she's isolated and left alone, like she has been in most of the show. A lot of reasons why I kind of feel bad and relate to her in the show is because I empathize with that loneliness that this character is going through. After grief, she shoves Dale away, and she ends up, like, with Shane, growing quite a good relationship with him, because she sees herself in that outcast of Shane. Luckily, though, she meets Michonne in season 3, who ends up saving her life and ends up going with her on the road for like 8 months. They come across this place called Woodbury, which seems like a city, a town where they can kind of rest up and be at ease. She ends up really wanting to stay at this place, and Michonne ends up leaving. And she really wants Michonne to stay, and it's this really bittersweet moment of two really good friends leaving each other behind. While a lot of people on the show really disliked this decision by Andrea, I personally don't understand the hate she got, as Michonne left her on a hunch. She didn't really have much to go on. I mean, yeah, you can say there's dodgy stuff going on, but there was nothing shown that was dodgy at this point. And that's kind of the way the show goes along with this storyline with Andrea and the governor, is they show these horrible things the governor's doing and how he's also manipulating Andrea and not showing her the whole story. As soon as she finds out that her friends are alive and in trouble and the governor has been doing bad stuff to them, she goes straight to the prison to try and find out a way to fix this, to solve this, and to make sure they don't get hurt anymore. It's this really sad moment when she goes to the prison and is completely ostracized by all her old friends. The only one who gives her a hug is Carol. She gets a meet-up with the governor and Rick.
I think that the reason why she went back is to figure out a way to, prevent a war, try to prevent bloodshed. And she cares about the people in Woodbury. She's not there, for the guy, you know. He's just, we got to deal with him. Her mind is on mediation. She was a lawyer prior to the apocalypse. It's what she knows. And she sees two men, two leaders who are losing themselves and losing their humanity.
To try and get them to work it out, and just as she thinks she's got a deal, she's told that the governor was lying and he's gonna kill them anyway. So she runs towards the prison to try and warn them, and is unfortunately killed by the governor in a later episode because she is captured. And it's just this really sad ending of, you see this big build up to something, a character who's really trying her best, and then she's just killed because the fans hate her online, and the way she's been written, she's just got, no redemption there. And it's a really sad end to a character who I really felt for in this kind of story with grief and loneliness. In conclusion, I think Andrea as a character is a perfect portrayal of what you or I would be like in the apocalypse. I think just seeing that loneliness in the character makes me want to root for her and be behind her, because she just seems to be like an underdog in this series, being left behind by everyone. And I think that's also what's quite sad about the fans and how hated she was, and that's why she got cut from the show, and why Laurie Holden was quite upset when seeing all the fans' comments about her, because there's just such a stigma around her and the adaption and the show, and quite a sexist view against a character, a woman who's just trying to do her best in the apocalypse with what she's given. Laurie Holden, in my opinion, portrayed an excellent character, one who desperately deserved to be in the later seasons, and someone who really kind of can emulate perfect human condition. It's really unfortunate that a couple slip-ups in management and all this kind of stuff ended up her being fired from the show. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I really hope you enjoyed this little video. It's kind of is a bit of a fan video, but also I really did want to find out kind of the reason why there was so much hate against the character I like so much. And I think that's so interesting to kind of discuss as people, and the way we ingest content, and should we think about it more critically or think about it more from are we being persuaded to think a certain way, I guess. And yeah, enjoy your day.